Hi, my name is Kaitlyn Onifrey, and I'm here to talk about gold and its importance, from the meaning of it in ancient Egypt to the art and why it was not wildly integrated into every single part of their artistic pieces, even though it was important. So, the first thing we're going to look at is why gold? Why did the Egyptians have this obsession with gold? Why was it so important? For one, it was shown to be a holder of wealth and power. It was a currency as well, but the more gold you had, the more powerful you were, the higher up you were in this culture. Two, it was representative of religion and spirituality to him. Even though the mineral was plentiful in Egypt, a lot of it was right there. It's why it was so popular. People associated it with the sun god. It was written in their text that it was believed to be the flesh of the gods, which made it so powerful and so divinely connected to this religion. So, a lot of gold was integrated into jewelry. That was their art form of gold. So, it was precious even though it was abundance. It allowed people to show how much power they had in the community. It was currency, but the more gold you had on your person, the obviously richer you were, and it showed how high up you were in both a religious and a wealthy presence. So, lots of gold was made into artistic jewelry, such as rings, as we can see here. This is depicting a very powerful couple. They have themselves carved into this ring. A lot of people wore headdresses or jewelry, lots of bangles. Every finger for the higher ups were adorned with these very thick, nice rings, just to show how powerful they were and how divine they were. It really helped to show people who was in charge in these communities. But it wasn't featured in everything, despite being, popular and found a lot there. It wasn't put in every piece of art. It actually was found mostly in divinative art. So if it was featured in something, it would just be like a small piece of a crown or a gold strip or like a gold sheet that was wrapped on a piece of art. It wasn't the entirety of an art piece, except for some of the religious and devotional art. Like the statue featured here is a fully gold casted statue of the god Amon-Ra. He was the sun god, I mentioned him earlier. He was casted out of pure gold. Given it's not a huge statue, it's a smaller statue, but they made it out of pure gold to honor him. Again, it was that flesh of the gods. And then being buried with gold was a show of wealth. So to have this jewelry and art pieces and offerings, everything that they had together, they didn't give it down to the next person. They buried themselves with it. So when you were well off in your life, you kept what you were well off with. So the people of this higher power were buried with lots of gold in their tombs, lots of art, lots of offerings, even coffins were made out of gold. All of this was meant to be buried with them and sealed away permanently for them to pass. But why? Why leave that gold behind when somebody else could have it, could have that wealthy status? It was an offering. Gold, more than anything else, was an offering in the end. It always had a cycle of being an offering by the end of these people's lives. So, again, that flesh of the gods, it was meant to be returned to them in a divine way. So, when people passed, they would bring it back to them. So, a lot of coffins were made out of pure gold, and they would take hieroglyphics, which was their artistic language, and carve it into the coffins to help them guide themselves to the afterlife, to help these gods show devotion in the gold and the hieroglyphics and the art, to help guide these spirits into the afterlife so that they could pass peacefully. So all in all, gold was a life cycle for them. It was art, it was divinity, it was everything. It was deeply, deeply, deeply ingrained in these people's lives. And these are all my sources. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.